Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and all of those who might be watching or listening from beyond. I know we have a few of you. You talk to me all the time. This is Talking Point on your content capital, WESN. My name is Sean Michael Small. My co-host, Mr. Keita Shah, he should be joining us shortly. Unfortunately, our usual Wednesday contributor, Mrs. Karania Shishera, she is not available today. She had something personal to see to. Don't be alarmed, she's quite all right, but hopefully she will be available to join us later on in the week. Maybe we could get her perspective on so many things that have been happening. And we are at an interesting point because I say this since nothing necessarily new is happening. However, we do face the same issues. Perhaps they might have progressed a little bit, worsened a little bit. Perhaps they might have stagnated a little bit. Either way, they're still there. And we are facing multiple issues at the same time, unresolved. And the question is, to what extent we will accept these issues being unresolved. Before I get into the first topic planned for the show, I'd just like to highlight that one of the opposition members, MP Rudal Munilal, he called out the Prime Minister with regards to the Prime Minister's statements on parenting. And I think we are now reaching a point in the discussion where you're going to get some uncomfortable moments. And that's something I wonder if we're really ready for. We're ready for our party to say something that will make the supporters of the other party uncomfortable. But are we ready to be uncomfortable ourselves, to hear some hard truths? Because technically speaking, that criticism goes both ways, or at least there's two sides to it. One of it is the uncomfortable truth that I was talking about of the statements on parenting. At the end of the day, the statements themselves, they're probably true. To what extent they're true, that can be debated. But to say that there's nothing there, to say that that's incorrect, I'm not too sure if we could say that. I remember in Assumption, Paris, when Father Rochard used to be the parish priest there, regularly, and this is a fairly well-to-do parish, that usually things might not necessarily be so hard on the parishioners, but Father Rochard was hard on his parishioners, and he especially called out fathers, I'll say it, but he regularly spoke about parenting and the lack of parenting and the lack of fathers being role models, being guides, being teachers for their children. So to say that the Prime Minister is incorrect, that's a bit of a stretch. However, yesterday in conversations, it came up. I actually was talking to Karen yesterday, and she pointed out something with regards to what the Prime Minister does. He does not take his share of responsibility, for the most part. And that could just be the natural flow of conversation. Most people are not quick to take their share of responsibility. And oftentimes many that do are over-apologetic, and to the point where you kind of wonder if their apologies are 100% genuine or if it's just going through the motions. But the Prime Minister, at the end of the day, he looked to the police, he looked to the individual responsibility or lack thereof of the individuals involved, he looked to the parenting. He even touched on education, but he didn't really go there 100%. At the end of the day, he is the big cheese. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. So much is given, much is expected. And so on and so on. You are the Prime Minister. The buck stops at you. Doesn't stop at the President, because that's a ceremonial role. Doesn't stop at the Minister, because the Ministers answer to you. in theory, you want to act as though everything is hunky-dory, there's no internal rift in the party, fine. Well then, in theory, the buck stops at you, they all answer to you. At the end of the day, we are now watching a prime minister on his last legs and he hasn't even finished a term. And again, I do wonder, to what extent do our government's controversies line up with the controversies of other countries? I'll say this, compared to Canada, we don't look so bad. 3 times before the ethics committee, that is Justin Trudeau. So, you know, we don't always compare horribly to our first world foreign counterparts. But at the end of the day, I think the opposition MP misses the mark. The mark is not to push back on the Prime Minister's words. His reasoning is not the be-all and end-all. I'm not entirely sure if Prime Minister Rowley even expects it to be. He did say that he's open to other ideas, to other thoughts, despite the fact that he doesn't always act that way, at least on other issues. He acts very much like he knows what he's doing and doesn't want to hear anybody else's advice on whatever matter it is that comes up. A.V. Drilling, Marlene McDonald, the AG, the previous AG, Foster Cummings, the Minister of National Security, etc., etc. The point of an opposition is not to just disagree with government for the sake of it. So the Prime Minister started the discussion, or at least continued it. Why are we so afraid to now continue having the uncomfortable discussion? Because we have a very, very, very unfortunate situation, and it's caused in part by the deficiencies of our own systems. It's caused in part by our own deficiencies in education, which I think is, for the most part, a mess that needs some sort of stabilization, then cleanup. And that's before COVID, by the way. Our social programs, how we decide on transfers and subsidies, the expectation of our public. I get it. Public servants don't want the retirement age to raise. They feel it's unfair. Except, how many in the private sector could retire on time at 60? Because to some extent, the private sector does have to pay for the benefits that allow some of that retirement to be practical. NIS and old age pension, etc., etc. And really and truly, at the very least, could we afford to lose the institutional knowledge when people retire? All of these conversations we need to have. And unfortunately, when some of the population hears something that they don't like, there's a politician waiting in the wings to jump on it and say, hey, you see, I warn you about those people. Crime is very real. It's not going to go away just because our politicians are too busy having a spat about it. So while I did say that the Prime Minister trying to take him seriously on crime when he interferes with the appointment of the Commissioner of Police, I mean, yes, hard to take you 100% seriously, Mr. Prime Minister. Dr. Keith Rowley. With regards to MP Monal Ridlal, can't really take you seriously either. Because you're kind of just trying to avoid the obvious. You're trying to tell me that the naked emperor is wearing clothes because it suits you. That doesn't really suit me. Actual topic for this first segment was supposed to be, or it is, so let's head to that topic. It is about oil. It is about the fact that we have a fixation on our specialization. It's funny, the anatonym for diversification. You know, it isn't like a true opposite that will imply the act of maintaining the course, potentially stubbornly. With regards to economics, a specialized economy is the opposite to a diverse economy. And yes, I will argue we are highly specialized because really and truly, energy is still what makes our economy move. It's where the dollars come from that circulates. Yes, we have manufacturing and we have a private sector, and compared to other islands, it might seem big. But for our needs, too much of our population is being employed by the government. Too much of our government's revenue is coming from energy. Too much of the things we consume, the products, the food, come from abroad, not from our manufacturing sector. So this is more of a subjective debate. I don't have a clear-cut answer here. What's going on is that government is looking to give out the rights to explore for more energy fields. They're trying to sell it. I don't know if they're basically just trying to sell it to speculators to raise money on the initial bids. They did it offshore. Now they recently, this week, might have been yesterday or the day before, they have given out, asked for tenders for onshore bids. Meanwhile, the Minister of Energy is basically saying, one, we need to produce more. I mean, it's to say that we need to produce more to benefit from higher prices, that seems pretty obvious. And given the fact that Germany is now looking to coal, which is, politically speaking, less desirable than natural gas, because Germany was one of the leading green countries. The fact that they're going to coal, you would think the demand is there. Of course, the infrastructure, the logistics of it is not that simple. At the end of the day, it's probably still cheaper for Germany to go back to their own coal mines, to import coal, than to try to import liquefied natural gas. What they get from the pipeline is just natural gas. But to send it to another country, especially at short notice, well, you don't have a pipeline built. You can't build one in 2 weeks. So you have to send it via liquefied natural gas. That has its own logistical requirements. So the demand should be there for us to exploit it. You would think that the energy companies would be doing everything they can to exploit it. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're hedging their bets. Maybe there's uncertainty with our energy sector, with the availability of natural gas and oil. One of the issues is some of the fields yet to be exploited in our waters. The water itself is so deep, the practicality of going down there, the expense is on a whole different level to, say, just putting a well on the ground on shore. Maybe that's why they're now looking to do onshore exploration. You would think we should have already exploited or done exploration onshore. I'm surprised that we have so much of the country still available to be explored. I'm not a geologist. I'm not in the petrochemical industry, the oil and gas industry. So I don't know exactly how that's possible. But at the end of the day, we're seeing these things it's not too loud. There's no big fanfare, but it's being done. And wherever Stuart Young goes, that's the minister of everything. He's one of the few ministers that actually works. Wherever he goes, to some extent, the focus of the government follows. More often than not, he's involved in a press conference at times when he doesn't even, well, it's not part of the ministry he's the minister of, but he's still a minister in the office of the prime minister. I guess to give him the authority to sit in on everything, to push through whatever needs to be pushed through. For those who know American baseball, he's the utility infielder. For those that follow sports on a basic level, he plays all positions, or so it seems. We do still have issues about food insecurity, though. I wonder why they don't put him to see about that. And Minister Young actually had something interesting to say with regards to Germany going to coal. He kind of scolded them. But at any day, it's complex. Like our crime situation is complex. Straightforward answers, I don't know. I'm having a hard time trusting straightforward answers. In this world, in this complexity, I do have to wonder, is this the course to get us out of it? Because we can't just expect the world to eventually pick back up, to catch its collective breath. Why? We've gone from one crisis situation straight into another. And just like our crime situation seems to be cascading out of control, at a time when our national security apparatus might be the weakest it's been in the last 5 years, things could cascade out of control out there. Anybody that did a business degree within the last 10 years or the last 20 years would have heard the whole world is a global village and blah, 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 blah. What does that mean? That means that crisis in Europe and Asia have a negative effect here because we're specialized. See, come back full circle now. The opposite of diversification. That's what globalization implied, pushed for. That's what the theory wanted. If we're all specialized, we use our factors of production more efficiently, we produce more. And then the production of the world increases. But what happens when trade is disrupted and we only produce one thing? We get what we see now. We only produce petrochemical products. And for the most part, nowhere near the food that we need. So this is just one more chapter. Mandate to frustrate, as one of our loyal viewers constantly reminds us. That's her theory. Well, I'll just say fixation on specialization. Are we going to get to that point where we are food secure, or at least partially food secure? I don't know. Is going after more oil revenue a good thing or a bad thing? To be fair, as I said before, it's subjective. Folks, let's take a break. When we come back, when I get more into those complex discussions that might make you feel uncomfortable. I mean, it makes me feel uncomfortable because I anticipate the reactions, but I'm not afraid to start it, to be a part of it, to expose my thoughts about it because we need to have it. When we come back, stay tuned. Talking Point on WESN, your content capital, will return after this.
Ocho. 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 Ocho.
Organic Ocho candy. What's inside counts.
As I run through the day, there's one thing that I need to give me more smiles and motivation to lead, to make new memories and nutrition to grow. My Kiss Enriched bread, the best taste that I know. Fill your day with love, we deliver the best for you. All across the nation to make your moments feel new. Fill your day with love, we bake the best bread for you. A taste of inspiration to make those dreams come true.
Baked fresh for you every day and delivered nationwide. Kiss Enriched bread.
Fill your day with love.
Burning questions, urgent topics. Welcome back to One on One, the show where we tackle the most current and pertinent subjects that are affecting all citizens, where we ask the hard questions and have in-depth conversations. What separates One-on-One from other talk shows is that the conversation stems from a younger perspective on topics that affect the fabric of our society. One-on-One, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. on WESN Content Capital.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Let your voice be heard. Call Madam Fix It on WESN, the only place that effectively helps you with your woes. Having problems getting onto government agencies, water woes, NIS and pension problems, potholes, and much, much more. Call me, Madam Fix It, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right here on WESN. Let me fix it for you.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing now, Andre.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is it no pressure on Nicholas Paul?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Welcome back to Talking Point. And as promised, to have those difficult conversations with me, well, welcome to the hot seat. We have, of course, with us is my co-host, Mr. Keaton Shaw. Keaton, good morning.
Good morning, Sean. Why am I in the hot seat?
Well, no, I am in the hot seat, and I have volunteered you to join me in the hot seat to have difficult conversations.
You volunteered me on my behalf.
People, exactly, that make people uncomfortable. Because part of the difficult thing I think that people don't understand is hard issues that are complex. Well, at some point, there's no easy solution. You're gonna have to, just by talking it out, you're gonna make people uncomfortable.
Well, actually, a prime example of that was yesterday's program in which we spoke about Haiti, the United Kingdom, Sri Lanka, and we brought it back to TNT. And you said making people uncomfortable. I got a bit of feedback, got a bit of reviews. One individual in particular seemed to have a very strong opinion on it. He thought that the conversation was polarized. And the reason being is because he says, comparing Trinidad and Tobago to Haiti, different countries, different circumstances, it seems as though we weren't prepared. And that is why I'm saying these difficult conversations get people in a state where they need to actually listen and try and understand. And that's the whole point, and that's what we're going to try and do again this morning.
That's part of it. And very often, I am uncomfortable, and I'm assuming the negative thing that I expect, and not necessarily what the context or the content of the message that is trying to be delivered.
And this is why I don't know if that individual is actually viewing the program this morning. I don't want to call their name, although they did make their thoughts public. The conversation yesterday was not a comparison. We're not comparing Trinidad and Tobago to the United Kingdom, Sri Lanka, or Haiti. The conversation actually focused on the similarities as
so it's
to
not a
how we
direct
do things.
comparison.
Exactly.
It's not we're better, they're worse.
We're not
Yeah.
stating that, okay, what we're showing you is that Haiti's in this situation and there are certain tenants before they got to this situation. The same thing with the United Kingdom and Sri Lanka. And probably the best example of, if you'd like to say that there was strong similarities, was between Trinidad and Tobago and Sri Lanka. But it's not necessarily a comparison to say, okay, you know what, Sri Lanka is terrible, there was Asian Pacific countries totally up. No, it wasn't a comparison. So just, I hope people, when we having these difficult conversations,
one
understand.
of the things that I think not everybody appreciates, academically speaking, an extreme example is usually good to try to understand, okay, what is the concept of this topic, right? Whether it is economics, so you go to the extreme example, perfect information for the consumer, no information for the consumer, so on and so on. You know, the extremes allow us to really isolate. I guess it's similar to how in the scientific method, you would control all variables and just try to test for one. You're not going to have a whole set of things be random, and then when you get a new reaction, you're like, well, we don't know which variable caused it because we didn't control all except one. So by going to the extremes, you kind of highlight specifics that academically speaking, you could point to and speculate, reason.
And I think you phrased it accurately when you used the term academically.
Yes.
And that's exactly
so like with Haiti, with
regards
regards to their judiciary, right? Yes, it's a more extreme example than here with regards to the destabilization of the country. But ultimately speaking, we're looking at the potential. That's worse. That's as bad as we've seen in the Caribbean right now.
But in terms of Haiti's judicial system, I don't want to get sidetracked too much. I want to get into this particular topic because it's very interesting. But in terms of Haiti's judicial system, we're not too far off, and I don't think people truly understand that.
So theoretically, when you just look at the factors, we're not. It doesn't seem to be that far off. Now, obviously, we still have a judiciary that could function, right?
At least.
We still have that, and I don't think judges are being necessarily intimidated, at least not in most cases. However, there's things that we obviously will not know, so we can't necessarily say everything with 100-degree certainty. And yeah, at the end of the day, don't think that we're immune or somehow better than the rest, so we're not going to reach there. That's the other thing. This was the examples of, hey, if we go down this path, this is where we could end up. And it could get worse than that. Huh? So we might actually, if we are not careful, not only could we get as bad as Venezuela, Haiti, Sri Lanka, we could get worse. We're not immune to the mistakes they made, and let's not assume that we are magically just better off and we will do better in those challenges. At that point in time, those assumptions might fail you, and then it's too late. Mm-hmm. So don't rely on things like that.
Now, in relation to last week Monday's protest, a lot has unfolded since that transpired. We've heard from the Minister of National Security. We heard from the Acting Commissioner of Police, conversations surrounding body cams, police shootings, the PCA, all that once more has come to the forefront of the conversation as Trinidad and Tobago tries to get out of this, how can I put it, malaise that we're in. Now, part of this conversation, which we have not explored, which will be very controversial, is the actual protest. What were the protesters thinking and how their actions could have probably not been in their favor? At the end of the day, they gained the attention of the country because they disrupted other citizens. But did it really have any impact or effect on government and governance? Because at the end of the day, who was called out to quell the protest? The same institution that you were protesting against, the TTPS. So this particular video was shared with Sean and I, and very interesting. In fact, Sean and I started debating this a little bit, and we've delayed it a bit, but we thought, listen,
it's still
why shy away from this conversation? Yeah. Very much so, it's still pertinent. And essentially, it was titled Trini Rambles, but I think it's a lot more than just rambling.
Yeah, so we have a clip, of course. Let's get into it with regards to the protest that we saw last week, Monday. Let's take a look.
By now, all of you would have already heard of the protest action today by residents of the Beetham and Sealarts area and some parts of Port of Spain. Now, this was in response to a police shooting that took place some days ago with some youth men in a car. Now, I'm not here to debate whether the police were right or wrong. As a matter of fact, I didn't know about that killing until today. What I'm here to talk about, though, is the fact that I think that the residents of Beetham and environs, you all are misguided. You all are going about this action wrong. And let me explain to you all why I think you all are wasting time and being counterproductive. Now, the first thing you have to understand is all governments in a democratically elected system, whether it be America or the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, both respond and fear one thing, and that is public pressure. For example, when the opposition leader is in parliament speaking, she is essentially speaking to us and raising concerns in hopes that we would put pressure on the government for them to make a change. Without us, the government wouldn't make a change because it will be business as normal. So what's the point that I'm getting at? It's a simple point. If you have any grievances, you take it up with the people in charge, not the public at large. You need the public at large on your side to put pressure on the powers that be to help you in your quest. That is just the nature of the beast. Which means, if you have an issue with laws, or whatever your issue is, go here and protest. Go in front here and burn tires. Find your MP's house, go in front of his house and burn tires. Go in front of Colum Imbert's house, burn tires. You have an issue with the police, go in front of the police commissioner's house and burn tires. Go in front of the prime minister's house and burn tires. Do whatever you have to do as long as it doesn't involve this, because when you all do things like this, or even things like this here, you all alienate the population. The court of public opinion is now against the residents of Beetham, Sealarts, East Dry River, wherever else this was taking place, because you all cause gridlock traffic. So though it may seem on the surface like you all did something meaningful, the only thing you all have successfully done is got the masses against you all, which means there's now no public pressure to help you all in your cause, which is counterproductive. This is why I said what you all did today was counterproductive. And make no mistake, the state knows this. This is why, even though the state can move a protest in a matter of minutes, they just let it linger. You know why? Because they want the court of public opinion to be against you all. That protest could have been ended. We have the manpower, the firepower to end something like that in a matter of minutes. They allow it to drag on just long enough to upset the entire country. Because then the general consensus is going to be, oh gosh, we're them protesting for again, them damn Beetham residents again. And just like that, the state used your biggest weapon, your biggest ally, which should have been the court of public opinion, against you. Because make no mistake, at this point in time, no one really cares whether the police officers were justified or unjustified in the killing of the young men. Everybody is now upset with the residents for causing gridlock traffic across the country today. And that is something you do not want. Because once you reach in that position, you have lost what could have been your biggest ally in your cause, which is the court of public opinion putting pressure on the government or whoever it may be to launch an investigation. So the point is, do not alienate the public. Use the public to your advantage, because the state sure does that.
Counterproductive actions. Everyone's talking about the protests and not necessarily about the fact that the young men were killed and whether or not it was justified. That's the point that the presenter in the video was trying to make. I think the point is a valid one. I don't think the point is necessarily 100% the case. I think some pressure was put on the government and the national security services. But ironically, I think a lot of that pressure came from the autopsy reports that was revealed afterwards, and not necessarily from the protests. Also interesting, one former commissioner did question why it took so long, why the protest wasn't ended sooner. So two interesting points there that he brought up.
A couple of things. First of all, let me be a bit proactive in once again stating that we do not condone the burning of tires in any form.
And there was a text disclaimer as well.
Right, because at the end of it all, go in front of your minister's house and burn tires, or the acting commissioner of police, or whatever, that we do not condone whatsoever. In fact, I'm just wondering if you'll get a bill for the damage that you would have caused if such action was taken. Also, the interesting thing is that when he said that you've now actually taken away attention from the actual police killings, Trinidad and Tobago is not against the communities of Beetham, Gardens, of Sealots. But when you have these activists coming out and speaking to me as a journalist, or even from the standpoint of a citizen, and telling me, well, listen, do not paint Beetham and Sealots in this picture. Do not, of course, there should be no stigma attached to them. It's difficult because you're advocating, but you as community leaders, what did you all do, or even activists, what did you all do to help that situation? You're advocating, you're pushing, you don't want a stigma attached, but at the end of the day, public opinion will differ because, as pointed out, you disrupted an entire nation. In fact, one citizen from East Port, Spain, as quoted in a daily newspapers, said the entire nation will have to pay because this is the price of progress. But the other two things that really, really spoke to me was the mere fact that, yes, we do have the manpower to quell these protests within a matter of minutes of it happening. We do actually have the resources. We have the capabilities. Whilst the Minister of National Security was in the Strategic Command Center, as he said, at the end of the day, why is it that more officers were not on the ground to ease this protest rather than it having to end 2 hours later? Because the point is, the government, again, this is opinionated, but to me it does make sense. The government wants it to go on for as long as possible because it diverts attention away from the actual situation and it places attention on the protest, the protesters, and their actions. Remember the conversation surrounding CCTV footage and body cameras? That's become a generalized conversation now. It's not necessarily associated with the police killing.
Would we have had these conversations if the autopsy report did not come back stating that they were shot from behind? And I vehemently believe the answer to that will be no. We would not. So the protests did not progress anything. And I said it Tuesday right after, and I'll say it again. I have sympathy for the families of the deceased, right? I don't have sympathy for the protesters. I just don't. Because at the end of the day, you protested before. Did it change anything? No. You protest again. Will it change anything? No. The autopsy report, the implications of that, and the fact that you will now have, hopefully, a nation wanting answers to that question, that's what's going to change things.
And to cap that entire thing off, again, respect and condolences, as mentioned by my co-host, to the families, the relatives and the friends who lost their loved ones due to actions that are currently being investigated. Let's leave it at that, because the residents are claiming one thing, the police may differ in their story. Let the investigation conclude exactly what happened, or at least try to. But at the end of it all, ladies and gentlemen, it is rather unfortunate that we have to have such a conversation. Because I go back to what I mentioned last week Tuesday, the mere fact that when protesters initially saw police approaching them and ran away tells me they know what they were doing was wrong.
Yeah.
They know what they were doing was illegal. They know what they were doing they could be prosecuted for. And on top of that, you're protesting, but you're throwing rocks, you're throwing boulders, you're throwing glass bottles. People's windshields were shattered.
Yeah, that's not a protest.
So then
that's borderline rioting.
You want change, and you are now pushing against the actions of police officers, saying that it is illegal. We want justice. But then how do you go about counteracting that claims? How do you go about counteracting your entire point? You just do the same thing.
So, I think we fall for this trap because we see that's how protests are done in America. Protests call for justice and change. Protests don't actually call for anything specifically. Martin Luther King had a dream. His dream had specifics. He outlined and defined what equality meant to him. When they asked for civil rights, the right to vote, they fought for something specifically that was achieved. There's nothing that is specific here. There's nothing about the police that's being asked of the police here, or the national security apparatus here, or the laws here, or from the politicians here. So when you don't actually ask them anything, you can't hold them accountable for anything.
But then you also have to wonder, at the same time, why is it that nothing was actually done? What was achieved from the protest? That's the entire question that we're asking.
The economy got depressed for a day.
You know, what was exactly achieved from the protest? Because I'm not saying it was the price of progress. I can't see us actually making progress from that. If you're talking about progress in terms of pushing the conversation once more, all right, fair enough. Everybody has a right to protest. Citizens have a right to protest. That was not protesting.
Now, here's the next part that might make people even more uncomfortable. There are allegations that the protest was fueled or instigated by certain political operators.
Paid for and financed for by... I don't know if it's political or if it's just other aspects. I don't know. But the Minister of National Security has indicated that he has information.
One political party is rumored or suspected, or I've heard whispers, or I have thought is potentially connected to what happened. And I'll just say this, to that political party, of which I have both hope for and I have concerns about. When the UNC does things and they distract from important issues, it's counterproductive and the issues don't actually get resolved. You're walking into that same trap, doing that same foolishness to play political games for the purposes of elections. And that's all I'll say about that. I am very disappointed if it turns out to be true, and it is giving me some serious thoughts.
Right, okay, because it was a rumor, I'm not even going to mention it. I'm going to take one step back and not even try to politicize this issue. Because I don't want to involve politics in the actions of citizens. It is a lot to do with government and governance. It's a lot to do with the national security apparatus. We're having those conversations. We've had those conversations for the last week and a half. The mere fact is, ladies and gentlemen, it is very frustrating that situations like this in Trinidad and Tobago it's only furthered. No progress is made. We're only adding to the nonsense of illegal actions when we do stuff like this.
I will just say this. I am advising, to steal a phrase from the Prime Minister's book, I am advising politicians to be very, very, very careful about what they get involved with. And this is for all parties. Right? Because the government themselves, they have a lot of members that have things that questions that need to be answered. Opposition is not immune, and we have 2 new parties, and hopefully...
Like I said, fair point. Any political party, entity, or individual should always be careful with who or what they associated, even what they say. In this particular instance, regarding the Minister of National Security's comments, that there are names of who financed it, who was involved, who pushed it, I think he should release those names because nothing will ever come out of it. I think the Minister of Energy, Stuart Young, said the same thing after the protest in 2019. Nothing ever came out of it. So, it's just a roundabout circle for them to just basically state that, we know these things, we're on top of these things when nothing ever comes out of it. I don't understand how nobody was arrested from those protests. People were protested, but then they were released. I don't understand how that is the case. At the end of it all, I am not going to push any politics in this situation. I am just going to simply say, ladies and gentlemen, what you protest for, which again was not protest, it's against the illegal actions that you're claiming by institutions. It is against misconduct or misbehavior in public office, abuse against the citizenry. And the unfortunate thing is exactly what, you all know what you did. There's no argument about that. But basically, your argument was counterproductive because you just did the same thing. Your actions were the same thing.
Faces were hidden, just saying.
Let's take a quick break here on the program. When we return, we'll wrap things up before the 9 o'clock news on the hour.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
FanZone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas, and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
The best birthday gifts are at dbesttoys.com. Shop for the best brands you love at the best prices. Like VTech, Leapfrog, Fisher-Price, Play-Doh, Hot Wheels, Barbie, Cocomelon, LOL, Baby Alive, Crayola.
Visit us in-store at Forces Flagship MacBean. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 32DBEST to order. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
There's a taste in the air everywhere. Feel the vibe, cause it's something to share. Smooth, rich and creamy, you'll find it right here. Makes you smile, relax a while, it's fun and good cheer. Ooh, enjoy every scoop. Ooh, every taste will get you hooked. We have flavors that you love, a combination special. Come along, enjoy your treats. This is Uncle Pete's.
Welcome back to Talking Points. Well, we don't have much time left, but there's also another situation, another clip that prompted a discussion that we were looking to have, and we kind of put it on the back burner as well due to current events, but we have the time now. So let's take a look at this clip and notice just how bad things can get. Maybe things that we might take for granted, but our lack of maintenance, these things add up. Let's take a look at this.
So good morning everybody. I want to welcome you all to the next tourist attraction in Sangre Grande, the famous swimming pools of Alfonso Street. Yes, there we have them. These holes have been proven to be quite dangerous. I actually had to dig a trench to allow the excess water to run through my lawn. And right about here, we have our famous Wassa leak. Water just leaking non-stop. So this is at light pole 61 Alfonso Street, Sangre Grande. And on my last video, I was contacted by the chairman and the councillor for this area, and they have indicated that they are going to put things in place to deal with this new tourist attraction of swimming pools on Alfonso Street. 2 weeks has passed, nothing has been done. So I hope after this video, maybe we could get a little action. Look at what vehicles has had to go through. Got to go through this piece of every day. Vehicles are getting damaged. Massive potholes. Look at these things. Proper swimming pools. So anybody need to take a little river line, well, you don't need to go down by the river. Just come down Alfonso Street, take a bathe, and all is good to go.
So, I mean, we have water and roads, lack of maintenance in this one clip. And I do have to wonder, okay, we know there are potholes all over the country, from the capital to the furthest corners, right, of the bush, to the furthest corner south. How many bridges people are protesting about? How many schools people are protesting about, right? However, many other community facilities are people protesting about. Lack of access to water in other areas. That's a small leak, by the way, but I'm pretty sure that those small leaks in the middle of the road are going to add up.
Buddy. Hold on for a second. The Minister of Works and Transport and the Minister of Public Utilities, when they're going back and forth as to exactly who's to blame for the road conditions.
You know, I have a fear, and it's a fear that I don't think anybody has ever thought about. If we had structural damage to one of the flyovers,
I wonder who's going to be blamed then.
Who's going to make sure that is fixed in a timely manner?
Wait. Here's the thing. The Minister of Public Utilities has acknowledged that there are many leaks across Trinidad and Tobago which needs the attention of the authority. Well, there are many leaks that I can videotape for you on my daily run from my home to Port of Spain to do the program that have been taking place for months. For months. That is one example. That video, by the way, was sent to us. And we're highlighting it because, as he said, do you see what cars have to pass through? Where is my money going into in relation to the taxes I pay for road repairs?
So when the minister wants to charge the protesters for burning tires on the road, could we send him a bill? Because I know I have a situation. My car is a little old, so adjusting the tires, right, without aftermarket parts is not doable. It's just not doable. But the damage is accumulating and my tires are not actually straight. So then the ride continues now to just damage the tire. Every time I hit a pothole, it puts my wheel further out of alignment.
I have also had innumerable issues with a water supply, as with many households throughout Trinidad and Tobago. I'm quite fortunate that I have a supply for more than 4 days a week as compared to most households. But at the end of it all, you hear the Minister of Public Utilities and the Water and Sewage Authority conserve water. Water levels are down. The problem with us is that the distribution end of it. You know,
look, it's distributed in the streets.
Exactly. So you're telling me to conserve water. You're telling me we have a water schedule. And by all, well, it means we should conserve water. It is a resource that we are so grateful and fortunate to have in Trinidad and Tobago as compared to many other countries across the world, if what we have to do is compare ourselves to other countries. But at the end of it all, it's nonsense what I'm seeing. Because not only am I not getting a water supply, I'm getting pools. I keep calling them pools. They're no longer potholes. They're pools in the road. My car is being damaged. I now have to dig a trench on my property in order for it to actually fall into the drain. And what's the response from the authorities? What's the response from the authorities? Well, we are aware of the situation. We have a report on our desk, and I can assure you that we will be dealing with it. Blah, 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 blah.
Pretty soon we'll go from potholes in roads to pools in roads
to
rivers. It won't be the Claude Noel Highway. It'll be the Claude Noel Riverway. Now,
I think you just kind of just...
Yeah, I actually caused myself to forget my next point. Now, with regards to these situations, I do again wonder revenue. We have revenue problems. All the local government jurisdictions complain about not getting enough revenue. Even the PNM local government jurisdictions, right, more or less would say that they don't have enough revenue. They won't complain about it, but when you ask them for something, then they'll have to admit it as softly as possible without making, you know, their bosses look bad. When the PDP won the Teche election, one of the smart things they did was they tempered expectations. They said, hey, this is the economic situation we're in. When the PNM won their first term, they didn't do that. And they got hit with the economic issues out of the gate. And even up to now, they keep saying, oh, you know, things are fine, and look at all these great things, I've got all these great things.
Sean Michael Small, you do realize that you're starting to sound more and more like an advocate for the PDP.
I am just using an example. An example. It is what it is. An example of good communication. I also thought that the TPS was doing a pretty good job at communication. It's just that no amount of communication could help you when you have an autopsy report that causes that level of suspicion. Now, with that said, revenue. Government has revenue problems from the start, but they do not manage the expectations of the voters. They pump us up, and then when they hit a brick wall, then they try to manage our expectations and wonder, hey, why they're not being reasonable? Because you pumped us up to start. Because you kept the truth from us from the beginning. So you can't reverse course now.
Anyway, to the Minister of Works and Transport, Sangre Grande, if I'm not mistaken, is your hometown. Well, you have some work to do, sir. Not only in your hometown, but throughout Trinidad and Tobago, which is your home nation. I am not entirely sure if you have been preoccupied with concerns surrounding driver's license and driver's permits. But at the end of the day, giving me a driver's license and a driver's permit,
what does that
whatever it may mean or entail, does not help the fact that I probably have to go purchase new shocks and new tires every couple months because, well, it's Trinidad and Tobago, sir.
Mr. Senator, my bill will be in email.
Yeah. Anyway, folks, we take a break here on the program for news on the hour, and when we return, we open up the phone lines this morning.
Seven is out, all day is in. WESN News on the hour.
In this season, we talk more about health, wellness, and everything in between. I am so excited to share with you everything about health and wellness so that you can design the life that you've always dreamed of. Join me here on What's Up Doc.
What's Up Doc? Tuesdays and Thursdays here on WESN, Content Capital.
Every day, we communicate through stories. Stories of ourselves, our challenges, our goals, our experiences, and our aspirations. Storytelling is an art that we have mastered. WESN Film Studios comprises a collaborative team of experts with extensive industry experience locally, regionally, and internationally. The ability of your business to successfully communicate with your preferred audience depends on the strength of the stories you tell. Your vision should be communicated in a high-quality, professional, and creative way. From concept to post-production, advertising to film, multi-camera productions, live events, streaming, and virtual conferencing, we are WESN Film Studio. Let your own unique voice be heard and your vision realized. Call us today at 628-5835 for your next production.
Don't keep yourself handcuffed. We continue to receive calls from members of the viewing public whose cable provider is Flow and cannot receive WESN. We advise that you unfortunately reside on the original Flow platform. If you wish to receive WESN's high-quality programming, you must contact Flow to be upgraded to the new Flow Evo platform. Call Flow now and demand your upgrade.
A reminder from WESN. We urge you to protect yourself and others from the spread of COVID-19. Stay safe by taking some simple precautions. Clean your hands often. Use soap and water or an alcohol-based hand rub. Maintain a safe distance from anyone who is coughing or sneezing. Wear a mask. Don't touch your eyes, nose or mouth. Cover your nose and mouth with your bent elbow or a tissue when you cough or sneeze. Stay at home. If you have a fever, cough and difficulty breathing, seek medical attention. Following the above can help us all to help each other.
Welcome back to Talking Point here on WESN. Now, in light of the conversation that we had this morning, rather controversial, need I say, and apparently yesterday's conversation was very controversial for some as well. It's raised a point about whether or not the conversations we have, whether or not people truly, understand where we're coming from, and not to try and sound arrogant in any sort of way, but what I've learned is that we lack critical thinking and analysis here in TNT, and everything becomes clouded by personal bias. Not opinion, but bias.
Now, I don't know to what extent this happens, but I do think that it does happen, right? I do think the problem is, I've seen a theory where basically if you had disruption to your emotions, even basic decisions you would have difficulty making. Because to some extent, we might be underestimating how much our emotions drives our decision-making process, drives our biases, drives our judgment. So to some extent, when we have these conversations, people might not realize, A, my emotional attachment, it might not even be to a position. It might just be to a buzzword or a phrase, and it triggers me, and I'm going to respond a certain way because I'm assuming that once you say blah, 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 you have to believe this or have to take this stance, and I disagree with this stance, so I have to counter you. I think one of the interesting things is with regards to race. One of the interesting things with regards to race, because what now in TNT, I would say that our conversations are a bit more straightforward, ironically, when it comes to race, given what I said. But in the States, I have seen the phenomenon of a colored person trying to talk about race, but because their perspective is disagreed with, you have the people who oppose them basically calling them a whole host of derogatory names, all for the sake of talking against or speaking out against racism. They're being derogatory.
And nothing, by the way, is wrong with disagreeing. Nothing is wrong with having a personal opinion. But the arguments that we must make in any conversation at all must be one that is logical, sensible, and actually has some sort of fact behind it. Because at the end of the day, if we just, and I'm saying this quite often now, at the end of the day, I need to cut that out, but, you know.
I mean, at the end of the day, you could cut it out, but then, you know,
at the end of the day, I'll still use it.
You would lose a phrase that helps to convey meaning.
Let's just, Sean, give them the question of the day.
Well, the question of the day, ladies and gentlemen, are us, the citizens of TNT, willing to have critical conversations without politicizing it?
Not necessarily even politicizing it, but without
becoming too emotional.
Yeah, too emotional, too sensitive because of a personal bias. That is the whole point behind politicizing it. Probably encompasses all of that. But you know what my concern is now? By us using the word politicizing in our question, people might think, oh, we're politicizing it.
Yeah, we're politicizing it. And which party are we trying to defend by asking it this way? We're equal opportunity critics, folks. That came up about 2 months ago. Please, you have to keep up. But with regards to this, I think ultimately it comes down, my litmus test is the debate to seek the truth or is the debate to win the argument? And usually, most people engaged in debate to win the argument.
Listen,
and I'll hold on. I get caught into that trap too.
Repeat that line one more time. No. The entire thing, the litmus test.
Are you debating to seek the truth, or do you engage in debate to win the argument? And that's a trap that everybody will probably fall for at some point or the other, more than once in their lives. If I'm not careful, I fall for that trap too. It's very easy to fall for that trap because you're so caught up in trying to defend your perspective that you don't necessarily now hear what the other person has to say or try to genuinely consider a different perspective. Now, granted, there are times when I do it, and then there are times where I do get stubborn and because what I'm hearing seems to be it doesn't move me. So it's not so straightforward to say that, okay, you have to be willing and open and concede to the other perspective. You don't necessarily concede to the other perspective. You just have to ensure, you have to be honest with yourself. Are you giving it a fair consideration? So again, are citizens of TNT willing to have critical conversations without politicizing it, without making it emotional, without turning it into an argument, are they willing to accept the result, even if they don't win the debate?
All right, so a couple of things while we're waiting for...
Phone lines open, by the way.
Yeah, because I would love some responses this morning in relation to that. The debate with us in the program. But a couple of things. First of all, one, in relation to pepper spray, one step closer to citizens being able to arm themselves with pepper spray. From what I understand, from August 1st, retailers and suppliers can actually apply for their licenses, and at the end of August, citizens can apply for their license for pepper spray.
I'll be honest.
I'm two minds about this.
I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference.
My two minds is, one, I think is the correct word grateful that citizens now have another legal way by defending or protecting themselves. The second part about it is pepper spray use requires training, and protective services every year have to go through refresher courses for training when it comes to the use of non-lethal weaponry. And I'm wondering, in granting these licenses, whether or not you're required to go through training before it is you are actually able to arm yourself with pepper spray.
One of the things, at the end of the day, you could have a gun, a knife, pepper spray, a taser. You could train in martial arts, whatever. Most training doesn't really have a lot of live contact sparring. My point is, that's fine. You could train to use a pepper spray, you could train to use a gun, you could train to aim. That's a target dummy, right? You're going through the motions. When you actually get into a confrontation with a criminal that might actually be seeking to commit violence against you, that's a different situation. And that's why I don't necessarily know. I think marginally, yes, there might be a young lady whose life is safe because she had pepper spray and she used it properly, and, luck was on her side, or she had a good head on her shoulders and did all the right things. Regardless, to say that it's going to make the biggest or the world of difference for the overall crime situation, that's not the answer. That's basically what I'm coming down to. The answer is a lot more complex and goes way further than just, we have another tool in the belt for the citizens.
We have a call on the line with us. Somebody's asking, are the people of Trinidad and Tobago willing, or is the better question, or are they able to have critical conversation?
Well, I thought about that as well.
Yeah?
I thought about that as well, yes.
Call on the line with us from
That's a legitimate question.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning,
Professor.
I explained to you already that politics is the art of government. That means good government. Playing politics is something different. And that is our problem. We play politics. We don't practice politics, because the art of government is to optimize the standard of people. And when you have a problem, you have to find the cause of the problem if you are to solve it. We don't do that. We try to solve a problem without finding the cause, because most of the time, the cause was a deliberate action by our government. And I don't know if you have any questions on that, if you dispute it.
No.
Because I used to say everybody entitled to their opinion.
Yeah.
That might be in our wrong
No, but we don't have any disputes.
Not on your program.
We don't have any reason to dispute. I think that's a very good point. Thank you, caller.
Okay.
Yes. I agree with him.
Deliberate action on the part of the government.
I agree with him. Our politicians, for the most part, play politics. And
well, that's it.
From what we hear,
they would think of that as, because it's a job title as a politician, playing politics is my role, right?
From what we hear, a lot of politicians don't do anything. They just don't. Maybe they're lazy, maybe they're inept. They don't do anything. And it's funny, but that's the suspected behavior pattern of public servants worldwide. A good amount of them actually don't do anything, and everything is propped up by the few dedicated, duty-bound worker bees that are overworked. And I wonder to what extent in our political classes is the same thing. Now, we can only really speak to the government about this, which actually does include two parties, the PDP and the PNM. The opposition doesn't really have official functions to do, so we can't judge them on this metric yet.
The opposition has an official responsibility, in my opinion,
in Parliament,
at least, to inform and educate the public and bring counter arguments, counter measures, or even alternative policies to the arguments of the government.
Well, they fail at that. They don't give alternative policies.
They have done very well in terms of standing up in Parliament. That's just about it. Literally just standing up. Their debates, many a times, most of the times, are very poor. They bring no alternatives to it, and it's very frustrating. And that's why to a certain degree the government gets away, because
but the government also has its deficiencies with regards to communication and debating. So I think overall...
Oh God, we're not doubting that.
I think I would love if our parliamentarians could deliver important points in 50 minutes or less.
Caller on the line with us from Diego Martin. Good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Yeah, I think you could have critical comments pertaining to this situation, but the fact remains that...
Hello, caller? Phone lines again.
TSTT.
Well, we know his phone line has some issues because we hear disruption. So caller from Diego Martin, if you could hear us, call us back. We'll take the call. I think I know where he was going. We can't have it. And then he was going to give a but.
On that particular note.
A conditional but.
On that particular note, I'd like to continue my rambles associated with TSTT.
Your Heinz?
Yeah, I just, my rambles.
Your Heinz? Your Heinz?
Whatever you like to call it. Now, forgive me, I was supposed to have the exact dates with me of the 2 reports that WSN has made to TSTT, because we made 2 reports, we have the dates. Unfortunately, I don't have the exact dates, but TSTT, I'm calling you out this morning, because TSTT called WSN yesterday and said in order to resolve our situation, our issues, we have to make an official report, an official complaint. TSTT, we've made that twice. It has been months. It's not even weeks. It has been months now. I'm starting to wonder if it really is deliberate. It has been months now that we have been trying to get you or your technician, or whoever you'd like to send. I don't know if you've retrenched so many people that you no longer have people to provide us with a service, yet we're paying our bills, to come and resolve our issue. What do you mean we need to make an official report and complaint? We already did that twice.
Keaton, TSTT is not in the business of giving good telecommunication service.
TSTT is not in the business of customer service.
TSTT is in the business of being just one more jobs program for the unions to fight over.
Which is probably the most... Yeah, that's probably the most accurate comment.
We have a caller. Thank you. We have a caller from Claxton Bay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah.
You're live.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, you're on the air.
Yeah. You know, Sean and Sean, you touching on some nice topic there, and about the argument and about if you're looking to win the argument or if you really want to deal with the truth and the fact.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the problems we need people like you all to do, to educate this population. Because the truth is what we're missing, what caused us to be in this deep turmoil today. With a lot of misinformation, disinformation, and confuse a vast number of the population. I think they become Down syndrome because they just don't know what is simply wrong or what is right. You understand? That's how far it is. And you all have the opportunity there because we can't lie towards what we're seeing today. No. Today what we're seeing is global. When you go and you look around the world, there is problems. And if we had to deal with our own problems here, which I believe we still have an opportunity to fix it, you know.
Yes, we do.
But we need people to understand, hey, we can no longer lie or turn a blind eye for what is truth. We have to get the people like the judiciary, the police office, the police station, and all these places fixed. These things must be fixed because this is part of the separation. You have to, these things could no longer be tied up with politics and all kind of things. That is waste of time. We have to get it fixed. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. You know, you mentioned just now fixing the judiciary. I have a theory that it is deliberately left that way.
I mean,
And deliberately maintained in that manner because it's benefiting few, but prominent lawyers and attorneys across Trinidad and Tobago, because when you have an individual who's to stand trial for, let's say he's been in remand for the last 10 years, all right? I'm consulting my attorney, my defense, every 6 months or every 2 months. My case is being heard once a year. It's being adjourned until next year, this and that. I am in the system suffering, but at the end of the day, these lawyers are collecting their money.
It helps people who are up for murder and facing death penalty. It helps with that.
Pratt and Morgan helps with that.
But here's my thing. I generally prefer to not ascribe to malice what could first be ascribed to incompetence. Because the systems are that big and complex, and as technology and the population grows and more laws have to be added, etc., and new social norms cause existing laws to become obsolete in certain ways, and new technology causes laws to be obsolete in certain ways, the situation gets even more complex. So I get it. It is that difficult.
So it's not necessarily...
And if politicians are lazy and not doing the job, well then...
So then it's not necessarily incompetence, but laziness. That's what you're telling me, because I don't think...
It could be... Well, that could be a form of incompetence in a loose...
I don't think...
definition of the
that
word.
we have stupid people in TNT. We can make the argument sometimes with our daily endeavors, with what we face there on the roads and whatnot. But I don't think we have stupid people running these institutions. In some instances, we have the wrong people running these institutions. Because yesterday, I got access to the Ministry of Finance document detailing the amount of state boards and who are those individuals on those state boards. And I was shocked. You'd be amazed who they have on state boards for what reason. One particular individual I was in school with has no working experience, no job prior to gaining that appointment. I know that for a fact. Graduated with a degree for one particular year, campaigned, and now my age on, I think, 2 state boards. At least 2 state boards. What they doing there? These people are just signing off at the end of the day. And that's why we have an issue. We have the wrong people managing these institutions. The wrong people there. But, I mean, I'm ranting a little bit. The point is, at the end of it all, I don't think we have stupid people. I just think we have lazy people who don't want to get it done. Because if we have to progress, we go in paperless, new technology, this and that or the other, we could more than adapt. But we are in this mindset where I'm not going to deal with that. Let's just leave it that way.
The irony is the laziness will present itself, to borrow the medical usage of the term, will present itself as if the person is stupid. Because their laziness will prevent them from trying to adjust, trying to adapt, trying to move with any sense of urgency, trying to really fulfill their responsibilities in a timely manner, prevent them from acting as they are, as is proper. So now you have political appointments to state boards. You have potential political appointments to independent posts, where the key determining factor is not competency, is not work ethic, is not the moral and ethics and values with regards to the duties of the office, the responsibility to the public. No, it seems to be the political reliability. And that's not unique to this government, that's not unique to TNT, but at the end of the day, am I supposed to say, no, we don't have that here? It's fine. Because the theoretical things against the former commissioner, I'm not saying there isn't intelligence out there. I'm not saying that there isn't pertinent allegations or not. I'm just saying it doesn't look good when we don't know what they are. When you could give it behind closed doors, that's fine. But as far as I'm aware, there's not even an investigation. So if you can't even investigate it, then how pertinent could it be? Things like that undermining the institutions of our society for the sake of political appointments?
boy,
that's going off topic.
No, I tell you what, we have to close the phone lines now, and Sean and I, we will explore the issues associated with state boards and appointments to state boards, and how these individuals collect thousands of dollars a month for being nothing more than a political rubber stamp. We will explore that.
Not just state boards, as the professor reminded us not too long ago, special purpose companies.
Which state boards as well. But
I know, but...
Yeah, oh God, issues with special. By the way, the judgment in relation to the legality of EFCL closing down is due, I believe, in September. So we'll be hearing about that as well, because...
Yeah, but I saw also MTS workers were complaining about their wages.
Yeah.
Hey, who?
So you're connecting it, right? You are connecting it.
Who didn't see that one coming?
You are connecting it.
I mean,
obviously.
we didn't say that the same situation might be happening with MTS. Oh no, we didn't say that at all. That did not seem to be the obvious next step of where this road is going to lead us. And then who comes after MTS? I would like to ask. Is there some other special purpose company?
Is it that we're just very good at it, or is it that it's just so easy to predict TNT? Is it that we're just very good at knowing what comes next, or is it that it's so predictable now given our history?
I think it's the latter. As I've heard one U.S. Navy SEAL say, it's not that we're that good, it's just that everybody else sucks. And I think with regards to the maneuvering of our politicians, one of the questions that I always have is, why do they seem to make such obviously bad decisions, like trying to cover up obvious things that cannot be covered up? Like trying to deny what happened to the AG, when the AG already publicly said, hey, this did happen.
Anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for our callers. To the caller from Diego Martin, whose call we lost, we do apologize. We're sorry. We don't know if we know that you are having issues on your end with your service provider, but so are we in relation to TSTT.
That is true.
Terrible service, boy.
With the new phone line, I have noticed we've had more problems.
And I'm wondering
so we apologize.
I wonder if Clive Elder had a point when he's stating that it's being deliberately done now so that people move away from TSTT. Because if that's the case, why would I want to go from TSTT to Amplior? If that is the case, why would I want to go there if it's the same provider? If it's the same provider, different company, different name, Clive had a point. I'm starting to experience it more and more.
Yeah, but I'm sorry. I have a hard time taking any union leader 100% seriously in this country.
Maybe you have a hard time doing that, but
consistently let us down.
But sometimes,
on
the rare occasion, you hear good points and good arguments.
That is true. He is one of the best.
So, and that was one of the points that I listened to, and I'm starting to experience it. So I can't necessarily argue against it. But anyway, let's conclude there. We have a lot more to discuss tomorrow. We do apologize. Karen couldn't be with us today. Fingers crossed she might join us either Friday or next week. We have to hope for that. But nevertheless, Mr. Sean Michael Small, thank you very much for being in the hot seat whilst I was absent for the beginning of the show.
I mean, I have no problem taking on the difficult conversations. The problem is, I'm not sure if TNT is ready for someone like me to be part of some of those discussions, and I'll leave it there. I will leave it there.
What do you mean by somebody like you?
Well, appearance, way I talk, background. All of those things people judge people by.
Then I suppose wearing the skull pineapple shirt this morning wasn't such a great idea.
I mean, I don't know if a skull pineapple shirt on air for Talking Point is ever a good idea, Keaton.
Don't worry. It's all about diversity and great taste in fashion.
I don't know about taste.
Anyway.
It's diverse, I'll give you that.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much once more for joining us on Talking Points. We do apologize for frustrating you.
Maybe you need to specialize your wardrobe a little bit more.
I good, man. I like my diversity and my taste. Yeah, it's working my favor, you know? Anyway.
Yeah, different doesn't always mean better.
That's okay. I still rather be different than the same damn thing every day, you know? Anyway, folks, that's it for this morning's program. We thank you very much, Mr. Sean Michael Small. I'm Keaton Shaw, and as ironic as it may be, remember, today is a good day to have a good day. This has been Talking Points, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.